Welcome to Geopolitical Currents, your deep dive into the forces shaping our world. Today we turn our gaze to a region in flux, a part of Africa asserting its agency on the global stage with a vigor that is both compelling and, for some, concerning. We're talking about the Sahel, specifically Burkina Faso, and the outspoken young leader who is quickly becoming a symbol of a new era of African assertiveness, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. His recent visit to Moscow, coinciding with Russia's poignant Victory Day commemorations on May 9, 2024, wasn't just a diplomatic appointment. It was a carefully staged declaration of intent, a powerful message delivered not just to his host, Vladimir Putin, but to the world. And the message was unequivocal. The terrorism plaguing his nation is not an isolated phenomenon, but a direct consequence of a historical ill, imperialism. The terrorism we are witnessing today comes from imperialism, and we are fighting it, Captain Traoré stated pointedly during his meeting with President Putin on May 10th. This is a narrative that resonates deeply within Burkina Faso and across a growing swath of the African continent, a narrative that challenges the conventional Western framing of the Sahel crisis. It's a perspective that directly links the ongoing insecurity, the displacement, and the loss of life to the enduring legacy of colonial exploitation and its contemporary manifestations. For decades, the Sahel has been grappling with an escalating wave of extremist violence. Groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda and ISIS have exploited porous borders, weak state institutions, and socio-economic grievances to expand their reach, inflicting immense suffering on local populations. Burkina Faso, in particular, has been severely impacted. With thousands killed and millions displaced, the security situation was a primary justification for the presence of foreign troops, notably from France, for many years. However, the efficacy of this foreign military intervention became a subject of intense debate and growing resentment among the Burkinabe population. Critics argued that despite the presence of French forces, the security situation continued to deteriorate. This fueled perceptions that the foreign military presence was not genuinely aimed at eradicating terrorism, but rather at maintaining a degree of control and influence over the country's affairs and resources. Captain Traoré's rise to power in September 2022 occurred against this backdrop of widespread disillusionment with the previous government and its perceived subservience to France. His predecessor, Roch Kaboré, had been ousted in January 2022 amidst similar protests demanding a more decisive approach to the insecurity and the departure of French troops. One of Traoré's most significant early decisions was to act on this popular demand. Within months of taking office, he ordered the withdrawal of French forces, a move that was met with jubilant celebrations in the streets of Ouagadougou. This decision was not isolated. It followed a similar move by neighboring Mali in 2022 and was later echoed by Niger in 2023. These three countries, all former French colonies grappling with similar security challenges and frustrations with their former colonial power, have since forged a new alliance, the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. The AES is more than just a security pact. It represents a bold attempt to forge a new regional architecture based on shared sovereignty and collective self-defense. The decision to allow citizens of member states to travel without passports is a tangible symbol of this burgeoning unity. Crucially, the AES nations have openly accused France of actively working to destabilize them, alleging that Paris is arming and financing the very terror groups it ostensibly came to fight. This is a grave accusation, but it underscores the depth of the mistrust and animosity that has come to define relations between these Sahelian states and their former colonial ruler. Captain Traoré's assertion that terrorism stems from imperialism is a direct articulation of this perspective. It posits that the current instability is not a spontaneous eruption of radicalism, but a carefully orchestrated consequence of external forces seeking to maintain control over the region's valuable resources and strategic location. Burkina Faso is rich in gold, and the control and exploitation of these mineral wealth have long been a contentious issue. Traoré's government has taken steps to assert greater national control over the mining sector, including the nationalization of key gold mines, and requiring foreign mining companies to cede a 15% stake to a new state-owned entity. This move, aimed at ensuring that a larger share of the country's wealth benefits its own people, is a direct challenge to the traditional Moshe of external exploitation. The desire for economic independence extends beyond mining. Traoré has emphasized the need to diversify Burkina Faso's economy and move beyond being merely a supplier of raw materials. The establishment of the country's first gold refinery and agricultural processing plants are steps in this direction. Furthermore, his government's commitment to boosting agricultural output, including the goal of achieving self-sufficiency in wheat production, reflects a determination to reduce dependence on external aid and food imports. The recent nationalization of rural land and restrictions on foreign ownership of urban real estate are also aimed at preventing land grabbing and ensuring that land serves the needs of the Burkinabe people. These policies, coupled with his populist rhetoric and emphasis on national sovereignty, have endeared Captain Traoré to a significant portion of the population, both within Burkina Faso and across the African continent. He is widely seen as a charismatic and decisive leader, a refreshing change from previous regimes perceived as corrupt and beholden to foreign interests. His comparison to Thomas Sankara, the iconic revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso, who championed self-reliance and pan-Africanism before his assassination in 1987, is a testament to the hopes and aspirations he embodies for many. Sankara's legacy of integrity, austerity, and a fierce commitment to national dignity continues to inspire a generation of young Africans. Traoré's adoption of the iconic red beret, a symbol closely associated with Sankara, is a deliberate visual cue that reinforces this connection. His popularity is not confined to the Sahel. Reports indicate significant support among young black populations in the United States and the United Kingdom, drawn to his anti-imperialist message and his defiant stance against perceived Western hegemony. His impactful speech at the Russia-Africa Summit in 2023, where urged African leaders to stop behaving like puppets who dance every time the imperialists pull the strings, further solidified his image as a voice for African liberation. However, this popularity and his assertive policies have also generated significant apprehension and opposition from those who benefited from the previous order, both domestically and internationally. Accusations from the commander of U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, Michael Langley, regarding Traoré's use of gold reserves were widely interpreted as a sign of external pressure and a potential precursor to attempts at regime change. The foiled coup attempt in April 2024, occurring shortly after Langley's remarks, and with alleged links to individuals harbored in neighboring Ivory Coast, a country with close ties to France, further fueled these suspicions. The swift and widespread popular rallies in defense of Traoré following the coup attempt underscored the depth of support he commands among the Burkinabe people. Against this complex backdrop, Captain Traoré's visit to Moscow takes on added significance. Russia, itself facing isolation and sanctions from the West over the conflict in Ukraine, has been actively seeking to strengthen its ties with countries in the global South, particularly in Africa. This has involved offering security assistance, forging economic partnerships, and promoting a multipolar world order that challenges Western dominance. For Sahelian nations like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, Russia presents an alternative partner, one that is not encumbered by the historical baggage of colonialism and that appears willing to provide support without the conditionalities often associated with Western aid. During his meeting with President Putin, Captain Traoré specifically highlighted the importance of cooperation beyond the military sphere, placing a special emphasis on the field of science and education. He expressed a strong desire for Russia to teach science to young Burkinabes so that we can develop our own production, industry, and engineering. This focus on education and technical training is crucial for Burkina Faso to build a self-sufficient and diversified economy. Traoré's call for the establishment of branches of Russian universities in Burkina Faso underscores the depth of this commitment. He recognized that while Burkina Faso has talented youth, They often lack the specialized scientific and mathematical knowledge needed to innovate and develop their own industries. President Putin, in turn, reiterated Russia's commitment to supporting Burkina Faso, particularly in the fight against terrorism and extremism. This security cooperation has been a key aspect of the burgeoning relationship between Russia and the Sahelian states. While the specifics of this cooperation are often opaque, it is understood to involve the provision of military equipment, training, and potentially the deployment of personnel. The effectiveness of this partnership in combating the extremist groups remains a subject of debate and scrutiny. Beyond security and education, the two leaders also discussed economic cooperation. While bilateral trade between Russia and Burkina Faso is currently modest, there is a mutual desire to expand it. The Burkina Faso Economic Days, held in Russia in October 2024, attended by a high-ranking Burkinabe delegation, were aimed at exploring opportunities for increased trade and investment. The establishment of an intergovernmental commission and a dedicated working group further underscore the commitment to strengthening economic ties. The historical context of African contributions to the fight against Nazism was also acknowledged during the visit. President Putin noted the participation of thousands of soldiers from present-day Burkina Faso in the Free France formations during World War II. Captain Traoré poignantly reflected on this history, highlighting how African soldiers were used as cannon fodder by the colonial powers and then killed upon their return for daring to demand independence. This historical perspective is crucial to understanding the deep-seated resentment towards former colonial powers and the determination of leaders like Traoré to break free from the vestiges of colonial control. Captain Traoré's journey is emblematic of a broader trend across parts of Africa, where there is a growing demand for genuine sovereignty, economic independence, and orientation of alliances away from traditional Western partners. The perception that the current global order is unjust and that Africa has been historically exploited and continues to be marginalized is a powerful unifying force. Traoré's popularity among young Africans, who are often the most vocal in their critiques of neocolonialism and their aspirations for a more equitable future, is a testament to this. However, the path ahead for Burkina Faso and the AES nations is fraught with challenges. The security situation remains precarious, and the fight against extremist groups is far from over. The economic development goals are ambitious and require sustained effort and investment. Furthermore, the shift in geopolitical alliances is likely to attract continued external pressure and potentially destabilizing interventions from those who see their interests threatened. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young captain in his red beret, standing alongside Vladimir Putin on the international stage, represents a potent symbol of this changing landscape. His words, linking the terrorism plaguing his nation to the enduring legacy of imperialism, are not just a historical observation, but a call to action, a demand for a more just and equitable world order. Whether he can translate his popularity and his ambitious vision into lasting peace, security, and prosperity for Burkina Faso and the Sahel remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the winds of change are blowing across the Sahel, and Captain Traoré is determined to steer his nation's course towards a future of true sovereignty and self-determination. That's all for this episode of Geopolitical Currents. Join us next time as we explore another region at the forefront of global change.